I'm a firm believer in free speech, but when you have Nazi, racist, transphobe everywhere, all the time, 24/7, 360 degrees, coupled with the idea that when you commit violent crimes, we have a revolving door justice system, and we saw that with DeCarlos Brown, 14 times felon, then that permeates the culture or the atmosphere of the United States, and people come out of the woodwork and they conclude, A, if they do a heinous act, they may not be fully and swiftly punished, and two, there's a large segment of the population they feel that will put them in the pantheon of leftist heroes, and that together is a very dangerous mixture, and that's what we saw. Everybody understood it was a political assassination. He was the most gifted political activist, probably media figure, organizer of either party, either persuasion under 40, and this was an effort to take him out.
It's striking how Hanson frames this moment, not just as another act of violence, but as part of a deeper cultural shift, where punishment feels uncertain and ideology turns criminals into heroes. What he's really pointing out is the dangerous normalization of political violence, where the system itself seems to encourage it. And as we'll see later in the discussion, this isn't just about one assassination. It connects to a broader collapse of trust in justice, in media, and even in the institutions that once defined authority in America.
And we've had these various polls that show that people who identify as progressive, up to 30 to 40%, approve of killing of political enemies. We've seen that in the Rutgers poll and otherwise. I do think when you say watershed moment, I think people collectively just said, after the horrible murder of Irenia Zarautska on the light rail, and there was one in Auburn, there was one in Queens, I think collectively they're just saying, I'm done with it. I'm not going to put up with the left anymore. I'm not afraid to say that there are two sexes. I'm not afraid to say that we're giving dangerous drugs to and antidepressants to people who should be examined in the trans community. I don't think it's okay if you happen to be black and you're Joy Reid or somebody, and day after day you say white, and you collectivize an entire demographic. So I think all these things that the left has been doing, people now, because of these events the last month, have concluded are symptomatic, and it can't go on. And so people, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a big tidal wave of repulsion, and you might see for the first time in our lifetime a sitting president in his first in an administration win the midterms, because I think people are really angry and they're going to go out and vote, and they're going to vote against anybody that's democratic, whether that's fair or not. We're very tolerant for people who believe in single parent families or gays or trans, whatever, but we're not going to back down that the society and the civilization has to have a normative middle, and we're going to defend that. And the same thing we're going to say in a multiracial society. We're going to say that race has to be incidental, not essential to who you are. And anybody who identifies by their tribe is a tribalist. We're sympathetic to gender dysphoria, and we like people to get proper medical attention for it, but we're not going to back down that biological men are not going to dress in front of young girls, and they are not going to compete in female sports, period. They're in a time capsule in amber, and they don't realize that and their reaction to their irrelevance is to double down. We're Harvard, we're Stanford. But if you're Stanford, and I'm speaking from the Stanford campus where I work, and for 4 years you deliberately only let in 9% white males, and you broadcast that on your website, and you trash Jewish students that are protesting Hamas, and you break the rules and let pro-Hamas people camp out and take over the student union for 4 months and then trash the president's office, then people start to say, well, it's not the same Stanford. It doesn't mean anything anymore. You graduated from Stanford and you were admitted with no SAT score during this 4-year period. And you talk to faculty and they say, well, yeah, we're like Yale, we give 70 or 80% A's, and we either have to lower the grading standards, or we have to lower the required work, or we have to create new gut courses. And that's what's happening across the higher education. It's just a question of at what point does the left feel the people who are doing this, that they're no longer exempt from the consequences of their ideology. In other words, if you're one of these people who are doing all this influential and you say, my kid goes to Harvard, and somebody says, so what? Harvard doesn't mean anything anymore. Or I walked downtown Los Angeles or San Francisco and I stepped in feces. So I think this was all predicated on an idea that everybody was a lab rat and the left was going to experiment with all these ideas, and they were the chosen moral superiors on the bi-coastal, globalized, the people who made out like bandits, and all the deplorables were going to be experimented on with no fracking and high crime and critical race theory, critical legal theory, and they were just going to, like the maestro, orchestrate the entire opera. And then now I think people are saying to them, we're not going to play it anymore, and you're not going to be exempt from the madness you created. It's going to, there's nothing that can protect you from what you did. And I think that's going to make a big change. I think they're starting to see, I can't ride the subway anymore. I can't walk at night in Chicago on the $1 Million Mile. My kid's at the University of Chicago, and he got in, and it's very prestigious, but he's not safe there. It was the left who used the court system to break people. Southern Poverty Law Center always would sue people they knew were not racist, just so they wouldn't have the ability to defend themselves. Not that Trump is doing that, but the right never really used the court system, but they have inherited that technique from the left. What we're seeing also is a boomerang. The left set all of these precedents, especially during the Obama and particularly due the Biden years, and they set norms of behavior, and the right comes in and says, I don't really like using the courts. I don't really like suing people, what they say about me, but that's what you people have been doing again and again and again, cancel culture, deplatforming, etc. So the right is saying, well, in normal times, we have latitude under the First Amendment for ogres and ghouls to celebrate Charlie Kirk, and we do now. But since you've canceled everybody during Me Too and everything, if you happen to work for a place, we're going to demand that place release you from your employment. And you can say whatever you want, but that's a business decision that institution's going to make, that you're now a liability because people like us are not going to put up with it, not read your material or participate. And the left said this is unfair, but the left taught the right all of these methodologies, and now they've come. What Reverend Wright once said, the chickens have come home to roost.
In this video, Victor Davis Hanson exposes not only the brutal reality of a political assassination, but also the deeper cultural decay that made it possible. He connects free speech, the revolving door justice system, and the glorification of violence to a wider collapse of trust in America's institutions, from universities to the media to the political class. Personally, what stood out to me most is how he shows that these aren't isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a society where moral standards are eroded and anger is boiling over. Watching this, I can't help but feel we're reaching a breaking point.